You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Freedom and flexibility. That's what you want in a healthcare plan. And with Humana's Medicare Advantage PPO plans, you can see any doctor in the country who accepts Medicare, including specialists, with no referrals needed. Plus, you can go in and out of network for the same copay for doctor's visits. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a Medicare Advantage PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Sunny day with a high at 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 67 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning and welcome into Monday edition of Inside the Locker Room. Phone lines, as always, 205-342-9904. If you want to get in on the show, the X accounts at Locker Room 109, at Barry Sanderson, at Wimp Sanderson 1. Our email address for our show is wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. You can send us a message through the email if you don't want to call the show, or you can download the Tide 100.9 app, put that on your smartphone. There's a chat box on the app, and you can send us a direct message right there on the app. We'll address that right here over the air if you do it between the 7 and the 9 o'clock hour. We want to thank Yellowwood Pressure Treated Pine from Great Southern Wood. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, then you certainly don't want it. Go to yellowwood.com to find the dealer that is closest to you. And when you build that 5-star backyard, there's only one choice, and that would be Yellowwood. Chase, good morning, Dad. Not everybody had a tough weekend because the Blue Plate Special hit this weekend, Chase. So give us a little applause for that. Can you get that pulled up there? Get a little applause for the Blue Plate. Now, it did go down to the wire, and actually it could have been a parlay if you were listening, because UAB got absolutely destroyed. So I know you were looking at both those games. So congratulations on that. Good morning, Dad. How are you? How are you this morning?
I'm doing okay. Just real quickly for last night, before I mentioned the game, Cowboys won 20-17 against the Steelers. Kevin Yu, who I have dug on, won $1.4 million at Sanderson's farm. But Colley from Alabama, Pat Kazar were in the money and won some money there. We'll talk about that with Doug. Phillies beat the Mets, and the Padres beat the Giants. My Cleveland Indians or Guardians, whatever you want to call them, play today at 3:08. I'll be watching that, I hope, maybe. And then there's also another game at whatever time it is. Yankees and Royals at 6:35. Big car crash, probably the biggest car crash in the history of any Talladega, any race. 27 cars in a big mess. When Ricky Stenhouse won at Talladega, which was a big deal, but they had a terrible wreck. I don't think anybody was injured that bad, but they just couldn't go with it. So that's about it. Davis Riley and Robbie Shelton didn't make the cut at that. Now, very quickly before I go into a little bit of the game, best thing Vanderbilt did, the poorest thing Vanderbilt did was tear down the goals and march with them and throw them. They didn't do a very good job of tearing down the goals. And I'm not here to criticize Alabama. I have no idea whether Alabama was ready to play or not. Alabama had a better team. And if they would play tonight, Alabama would win handily because they would know how good Vanderbilt is. But I don't know whether they're ready to play or not. It didn't seem like it if they were. I said mental and physical, and I mean that. I think that's true. Some of you listeners don't understand that, but that's true. When you have a read defense, which I've been concerned about, they do a better job. The real read came from the quarterback at Vanderbilt. He did the reading, by throwing the football and running with the football and doing what he needed to do. He read the defense of Alabama was better than Alabama read the defense of Vanderbilt. So whatever. But we had a crazy Saturday. A&M, beats Tennessee, which is humongous. Tennessee only gets 14 against them, and Vanderbilt gets 40 against Alabama, and A&M scores 41 against the Missouri defense. That's supposed to be good. I guess you'd say a little bit of a surprise for me would be Ole Miss scoring that many, and I think Georgia did what they were supposed to do. The answer to all of this is I don't know if there's a great team they're all pretty good. Some of them are. We don't know about Texas, but no great team. And Texas has not yet been into an upset. Of course, they play Oklahoma and Dallas this week. So that's kind of what happened. And if you want to get on and talk, Max will be on at top of the hour and Doug at 15. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that South Carolina game. Shane Beamer, you don't fake a punt in the first quarter. You put yourself behind the 8 ball at the very beginning. You give their offense a short field in the score, and then the whole momentum's changed. So I lay that at his feet there. Terrible coaching decision. Let's discuss the end of the game. Malachi Moore. First of all, it should have happened before now, but hopefully it'll happen today. He needs to issue a public apology, by how he the throwing the mouthpiece. I can get by with that. Somehow I don't like it. Kicking the ball unheard of. Shoving the quarterback's face into the ground after they whipped your the entire game. But when you refuse to come off the field, when they try to sub for you, and then your coaches just kind of back. I don't know if Alabama had a timeout or not. If they did, they should have burned it and walked down the field and physically taken him off the field. You've got to strike on the. Kalen DeBoer and Kane Womack have got to handle this properly, or you could really cause your team a problem. This guy's got to sit. He's got to sit. Now, I understand kids make mistakes, and you can forgive him if he is. I don't know the word I'm you looking for. If he's very humble about what happened, if he realized what kind of mistake that he made. But for a guy to refuse to come off the field when you're trying to take him out there at the end, and then, Coach saw all that. Maybe he wasn't prepared. His response, I love Kalen DeBoer, but his response in the press conference was this side of poor. And so, Dad, I think all the players, this guy's a 5th-year senior. I think his handprints are in the thing. He's a captain. And to act like that, these young kids are watching. And personally, I think he's got to sit against South Carolina. Maybe that's too. Normally, I'm not for sitting guys. If you can discipline in some other way, he's got an issue where they send it out, a public apology. I know Coach will probably address it today, but everybody on that team is watching how you handle this, and how it's been handled so far. The press conference was not very good. Just your thoughts on that situation.
Well, you don't go with the ifs, but if Nick Saban had been there, he'd have pulled him off of there. He'd have gotten off pretty quick. I think the one thing that you have to do is that you have to be darn sure that you maintain discipline with wins and losses. Pretty easy to maintain after the Georgia win and get off to a fairly good start. I think he needs to be suspended for the game, personally.
I do too.
I don't think he needs to play. And I think I didn't want to get into it, my little pregame thing. So I don't think that. I think Coach will make a mistake if he takes this lightly. If he doesn't get in the press conference and nail him for it. I don't think you need to get into the press conference and make excuses for it.
Which I think what happened after the game. Now, a lot of times you haven't had time to collect your thoughts. You got a million things racing through your head. So I'll give him a pass on that one. But today it's got to be handled, and it's got to be handled with no doubt who's in charge.
Yeah, I think we need to find out who the head coach is as far as discipline is concerned. Because you can't have a guy who's going to be one of your big-time leaders and then a great player show his fanny like that. So he knows that the personalities of the coaches has changed. I don't know what degree, but they better get a hold of it. If they don't, I will tell our fans there's some more losses coming. This is not going to be a one-loss team. I don't think. Hopefully I'm wrong, but there's some more losses coming. Everybody's fairly good, but nobody's just great. And you go on the road, they're good enough to beat you. So
yeah, and then when you're in this new NIL era, people, they're looking for a chance to bust you. And when you don't play, and I'm not saying this is a player's fault, when you don't play well, these people, I mean, like on Facebook and all this, they think they go there and everybody wants to post something negative about these kids, about them getting money, and you can criticize them now. You know, they go overboard with all of that stuff. So, you know, it's a crazy time right now in college football, but that's got to be handled. And, you know, people say, well, that wouldn't have been tolerated if Saban, you know, we can't go back to every time something happens. We say, well, Nick Saban wouldn't have done it that way. So now we were okay when they beat Georgia and we thought everything they were doing was great. And then now all of a sudden they've lost a game and everything they do now is not good. But this defense has got to toughen up, quite honestly. And I've heard people talk about how easy it is for these players to learn. So it gets you on the field quicker. And I don't know anything about the 4-2-5, so I'm not sitting here trying to tell you. But evidently it's easy for the opponents to figure it out, too, because they're shredding this defense right now.
I had been saying that when we started in a nice way. The only thing I said was I felt like it'd be interesting to see if you could read all the time. But when you got a quarterback that you really can't read what he's doing, you don't know a lot about him. I don't know if you were ready to play or not. I have no idea. I think there's a question there, and you sit there and let him do what he wants to do. Pretty much, he did the reading himself in critical times. So.
At no time do I, well, you can say whatever you want. Do I want to hear an Alabama people say, well, we should have won that game. You know, if we would, no. We did tell you, Dad was worried about the game. I said all along I thought Alabama would win. I didn't know they would blow them out, but I hear people talk about these scores. They were talking 50-something to 7. So the fan base disrespected them as well. If the players did, then that's true, but don't say we should have beat them. Vanderbilt controlled the football. They had the ball 42 minutes to Alabama 17, and that was one of the things that we said. They got to control the ball. I don't know why more teams don't run that offense that aren't able to get the talent maybe that Alabama does. When people say, I've heard people say, well, that's a high school offense. Well, I don't know what it is, but for whatever, you don't see it much, and people can't stop it.
Yeah, they've got a good quarterback, and the quarterbacks are carrying so many things in the SEC now. And the big sack on Milroe was the first time that somebody got to him and he didn't see it. And when you look at Alabama did not get a sack. They did not get a sack. That one little sack right there when they're fixed to get started knocks the ball out, I thought was a huge play.
Yeah.
Early in the game.
Sure. All right, we'll go ahead and take the break here. We'll open the phone lines 205-342-9904. Normally, Dad and I are a pro player as far as not suspending, but that behavior there and showing up your coaches on the field and not coming off the field, Now, I'm hoping he's realized what a mistake he made, and will address it, but we'll see. 2 Men in a Truck, they're at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. It's local, out of town, out of state, no problem. Let the professionals handle it. They're there to take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today for the estimates, 205-247-5050. That's 2 Men in a Truck, movers who care.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Look out for an accident causing severe delays on 2059 eastbound at exit 89.
The Humana Honor Medicare Advantage Plan gives you $1,680 back each year in your Social Security check. Choose coverage that helps you keep more money in your pocket. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. The Part B Give Back benefit pays part or all of your Part B premium, and the amount may change based on the amount you pay for Part B. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Electric Supply touch every part of what powers your life. Stop by CED in Tuscaloosa, Coleman, and Decatur, or All Faith Electric Supply in Albertville and Huntsville.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Monday morning. Lawsuits stemming from Alabama's delays, mistakes, and misunderstanding in its statewide unemployment system during and after the COVID-19 pandemic will be heard by the U.S. Supreme Court today. At issue is the question if plaintiffs must finish their appeals process with the state agency before going to court. Alabama continues to have the slowest rate of processing appeals of any state in the union. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather. It's free throughout the day. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Did you miss any episode on Tide 100.9? Don't worry. All of our shows can be found on Spotify and Apple Music and on demand on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Yellowwood pressure treated pine from Great Southern. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. Before we get to the Yellowwood hotline, one of the things that we had Brando on, and Brando wasn't singing Alabama's praises, and people killed him for it. All right, now hindsight's 2020. Now it looks like maybe he was on to something, or is he just anti-Alabama? And he always says that. But those same people that were killing Tim Brando, all of a sudden were killing the players and the coaching staff and doing the same thing. They killed Brando, and then when Brando might have seemed like maybe he was right about some things, they were doing the same thing he was doing. So why is it okay when they do it? But when somebody doesn't just sing praises about Alabama, Bama fans get mad, but then they will turn on their team. Unbelievable when they turn on them. All right, get to the Yellowwood hotline, get Tony in. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, guys. Y'all doing okay?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Guys, about Malachi Moore. I played in an era when if a coach asked you to go get him a pretzel, you went and got him a pretzel during the game. I cannot believe that a captain of Alabama's team did that. And I would have had, as a coach, I would have told two of my other captains, you go get his, off that field and go get him now. Because you can't, as a coach, you don't need to put your hands on a kid. But I would have made sure he got off that field, and I'd have done it in front of God and everybody. And then, like y'all said, he would be sitting, not just this game. It may be a while before he plays again. That's just, in my opinion, that's disrespect. Total disrespect.
Yeah, it depends on how he handles it. If he comes in and just is completely distraught about it, and then I probably would just do one game. But if he doesn't understand, and I think you're right. Like, we had 10 other players stand there watching him act like that. They were on the field with him. Somebody should have went over there and grabbed him up and said, hey, brother, we don't do it that way here.
That's right. He should have been knowing that, being a fifth-year senior, like y'all discussed. He can get heated about losing and this, that, and the other thing. But if I'm not mistaken, he got caught peeking inside and let a guy go right behind him on a 4th-and-1 play. To get mad at yourself, man, take a look at the mirror.
Yeah.
There's some things that he messed up on, too. It's not the fact that the line didn't get any, sacks or whatever. It's a team game. It's the ultimate team game. So, guys, I think that I've kind of bit my tongue on calling a little bit because I've seen some flaws in this defense. The fact that we can't get anybody off the field in 3rd down, 4th down, We don't stop. We have really, guys, if y'all think about it, we haven't stopped the run all year. Every team we played has averaged a pretty good chunk. The fact is, we got up on some of these teams early. It kind of gets them out of their playbook a little bit, including Georgia.
Well, I indicated that some time ago. I'm not saying but I've been behind the scenes, not behind the scenes. I've mentioned it. I think read defense is really hard to read sometimes when that quarterback is decent.
Yeah, you think about 5 games. For your final against West Kentucky, Wisconsin's quarterback went out, in the first quarter. The rest of the games, I mean, South Florida pretty much did what they wanted to do. Georgia did the second half, and Vanderbilt the entire half, so the entire game. So really only 2 games has his defense been very good, to be quite honest with you.
You're exactly right. And if you don't, seriously, guys, I know we moved the ball pretty well against Georgia, but I do wonder how good we'd have moved it had they not turned the ball over. There were 2 passes they threw right to our defenders, right to them.
Yeah.
But I don't like the run gap scheme. I don't like a lot of that. I know what the 4-2-5 is in the 3-3-5 stack. I've coached against it. You can get them out of that. All you got to do is attack the gaps and make sure you have more linemen than they bring, because guys, I don't know. I think that if I'm not mistaken, I read a stat over the last 6 quarters of play, Alabama's given up 40 conversions and only 2 3-and-outs. That says something, fellas. I mean, that's not good. That's not good at all. And it's an anomaly or a fluke if it happens once, but if it happens more than once, twice, it's now a pattern, and that's who you become. And that's something that I'm fearful of, because we're going to play some teams that has already scouted Alabama, and they're going to figure this out too, and teams with a little bit more athletic ability than Vanderbilt.
Yeah, well, that Vanderbilt, you would wish you could have the mindset. You wish you could put the mindset their quarterback has in every player that you have. If you could put that mindset, I don't know how that happens, but that guy, he felt like he was the best player on the field, and honestly, Saturday he played like it.
Well, moving forward, how many more games do y'all think Vanderbilt wins? Now that they've basically, not only they beat Alabama, guys, they whipped Alabama, in my opinion. Yeah. They lined up and beat us on both sides of the ball from the opening whistle to the end. And any time we had momentum, they grabbed it right back from us. But I don't know. I think they're now going to get more people's attention.
Yeah, they're going to study it. They got a week off, and they go to Kentucky. That'll be hard. They got Ball State at home, Texas at home, at Auburn, South Carolina.
They can beat Auburn.
Yeah, at LSU and Tennessee. But I think what you said there is, as much as you wanted to convince the Alabama players that Vandy was good, they've known what's happened the last several years. But now I think you'll get these other teams' attention. They'll have their attention. We'll see.
Well, both of you, this coach, of course, was at New Mexico State when they beat Auburn. And everybody called in and laughed at Auburn for getting beat. He turns around and goes to Vanderbilt, and behind the scenes, he's the guy that put the offense in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jerry Kill. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony.
Well, all right, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Great call. All right, back to the Yellowwood Hotline. Get Philip in. Good morning, Philip.
Morning.
Good morning, Ben and Will. It was quite a weekend. That was a great game by Vanderbilt. They had a great game plan, and their quarterback executed it beautifully. Joe Gaither had a really good article on the game. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but talking about the Vanderbilt's ability to break tackles. And they had a tremendous amount of success isolating their plays against, one Alabama defender. And they had success play after play after play doing it. And a lot of those plays were run right at Deontay Lawson and Jihad Campbell, who had trouble bringing the guys down, alone. So my hat's off to Vanderbilt. They had a great game plan, and they were excited. I didn't think Alabama was all that excited. But like Tom pointed out to me yesterday, Alabama's offense was cooking pretty good. They only had the ball for about 18 minutes and scored 35 points. The defense was just flabbergastingly bad, And as far as the Malachi Moore situation goes, I didn't see all of that happened until late last night. Somebody posted something on Reddit, and it showed Womack coming way out onto the field, motioning for Malachi to get off the field. And I didn't see that in real life. And when the game was going on, I just saw him sort of pitching a fit and all that, but I did not see the Womack trying to get him off the field. And he just utterly refused to come off the field. Now, I'm all about passion, and I'm all about players getting frustrated and getting mad. I understand that, but that was not a good look.
No, you embarrassed your coach when you won't come off the field. And then, like Tony said, if you come out there and you put your hands on him, then, you want to go out there and put your hands on him when he's acting like that. But you can't do that. Now, I'm disappointed that some of the other players didn't go out there and physically lift him up and take him off the field, to be quite honest with you, Phillip. But the emotions right now, when you think about it, what you should have done but I bet you there'll be some players the next time that happens, hopefully it won't happen again, that would react differently to that, to go and physically take him off the field or whoever.
Well, the real answer to what both of you said lies in today.
Yeah.
In his ability to have enough guts to apologize for it and for his coach to be stern with it in the right way. That's the real answer.
Yeah.
And this is a key moment, Coach Sanderson. This is a key moment for Coach DeBoer today to get things straightened out. And he can't lose sight of the fact that how important it is for him to get that under control. Because right now, there are 32 teams right now. There are 32 teams that are still alive this day right now for the 12-team playoff. Now, there's going to be a lot of what I call elimination games starting this weekend. Beginning in our conference, LSU and Ole Miss is the big one. And then because probably whoever loses that game is probably going to be out of it. What Alabama did so wrong the other day was they lost a lot of leverage ability. They lost to Vanderbilt pretty early in the year. In our top 6 games are easier than our bottom 6 games.
When you start looking at if the Alabama loses again, and you start looking at these teams with 2 losses, you look at their losses, and I'm afraid that Vanderbilt loss is not going to look good. When you start looking at that and saying, well, Georgia lost to Alabama and Texas, so Georgia's
exactly right there.
Yeah. So, all right,
appreciate you.
Thank you, Phil. All right, we'll get to break here. We'll get to Max Howey. Listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Look out for an accident causing severe delays on 2059 eastbound at exit 89.
At Humana, our Medicare Advantage plans give you coverage and care you can count on, along with guided support to help you feel your best. You could have a plan with a $0 premium or an all-in-one plan that may include medical and prescription coverage, as well as routine dental, vision, and hearing. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today. Partially sunny with a high at 85. Turning cooler tonight. Clear with a low at 55. And tomorrow and Wednesday, a good supply of sunshine both days. Highs around 80. Thursday, a sunny day with a high at 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 67 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
2-time state champion and 2-time NIT champion Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
He brewed a white lightning till the sun went down, and then you fill him a
Pressure treated pine from the great Southern Wood. Go to yellowwood.com to find a dealer closest to you. You want to build the fence, the deck, the pergola. You want to use Yellowwood. All right, get to the Yellowwood hotline, and we'll bring. He's a radio personality in the Southeast, former assistant football coach at Ole Miss and Florida State, Coach Max Howell. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, Max.
Doing great, guys. How y'all this morning?
We're doing good. We've got a league that a lot of people are pretty good. Nobody's great. We don't know about Texas yet, but
that's right.
Your thoughts on the league, but first of all, your thoughts on Alabama Vanderbilt, I guess.
Well, I think probably was the best wake-up call, that the new staff and all could probably ever had. The only thing I've kind of watched them, even against Georgia, the second half, they make very few adjustments on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's just probably maybe still getting accustomed to each other and the team itself, and they know we got a lot of good talent. But you got to coach every Saturday.
Is it the alignment?
Well, part of it is, and part of it is they don't make, when something's hurting them, like the offensive front was hurting from Vanderbilt, and they never made an alignment adjustment. They never gapped them. They did very little blitzing. I think they just kind of relied on what they had prepared for, and come to know, guys, Vanderbilt was better than we thought. I mean, they took Missouri to overtime. I'm not a real big fan of Missouri. I don't think they played a tough enough schedule yet, but still, they are a better football team than they have been. You keep going to Nashville this year and just expect to go get a pure win out of it. Doesn't matter. But I think it speaks for the balance of the league also. I think it's, I don't. The fan base at Alabama, you guys know. I mean, both of you there. You know that they've been spoiled. Coach Saban had a great tenure. That's why he ended up where he was at the top. But he approached the game a little bit different with a personality different than this staff's got. And I think maybe the team that probably came to surface when they played at Vanderbilt. And they, I think they're gonna be okay, but they gonna have to go out there every Monday and Tuesday and work hard as heck to continue on at the pace that was set with Coach Saban's teams. So overall, I just written it down. I think it's a great learning experience for them. But we'll see if they could increase the communications. If basically each side of the ball can take what they're being given and make something out of it every snap.
Yeah, we talked about if Vanderbilt could control the ball, they had the ball pretty much the entire game. Max, right. Alabama scored, but they only had the ball, I think, a little under 18 minutes.
Right.
Sometimes those type of offenses, you put a scout team together, and they honestly can't do what Vanderbilt's doing. They try,
very true,
but they just can't do it. So they probably didn't get a great look at it. And then you look back at the scores that have happened the past couple of years, and how Alabama, how bad they beat those guys. It was a recipe for a disaster right there. When that offense starts coming at you, a quarterback's confidence starts to grow. Sometimes, Max, then at that point, you start griping with one another, and then before you know it, you've gotten your butt beat.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, and I think you're right. And I didn't realize this. I didn't realize that two or three of those guys came with a quarterback from New Mexico State. So they were very familiar.
They did.
Well, in fact, the quarterback coach himself, I guess, installed that system with the option in it. And hey, look, I've coached at that level and know what it is to have to. I remember when I was at Florida State, number one in the country, we played Georgia Southern. They came in there with a 3-back option offense. We had them 7-0 at halftime, and we didn't beat them, but maybe 10-7. Just because that thing, we had to install different practice sessions to try to stop the option. And the kids aren't, you don't make that adjustment just in one day practice. And I think part of that was the result is what we saw at Alabama the other night.
The same coach and quarterback that beat Auburn at New Mexico State. So go ahead, Barry.
People had talked about prior to the season, they're letting the coordinators talk to the media now. And of course, when coaches talk, everybody's eating it up because we haven't heard the coordinators talk for 17 years. But one of the things they talk about, and I don't know, that's why I'm asking you, you're the football guy, the 4-2-5 is what Alabama runs, that it's easier to play guys earlier because it's not as difficult to put it in. Well, I started thinking, well, you know what? You got a bunch of analysts. You got a ton of coaches. If it's easy for these Alabama players to learn this system, it's probably going to be easy for the opponents to learn the system as well. They're going to shred that thing.
That's very true.
Is there any truth to that, Max?
I think it is. I don't think there's any doubt. And then you got to, from the press box, those coaches in the press box that looking down on that system, they got to know when to substitute. They got to know what the tendencies are, of the opponent. A good example was this week with Ole Miss in South Carolina. They ran the ball about as much as they threw the football, scored 2 or 3 touchdowns on nothing but the run. And Lane, Kiffin's stepped up, and he's already realized that. Maybe Coach Beamer and that bunch didn't have quite as much athletes, but I can guarantee you, Beamer and him worked for a 40-play passing game. Is what they work for. And when you got 5 defensive backs and only 2 linebackers, you can rip that by running the football if you got any kind of offensive front at all. So it's the mixture of communication, but you better have worked on those different formations that the opponent's going to give you during the week. And if you don't, you will get caught really with your britches down. Is what it amounts to. And I think that's what's happened.
Yeah, the Malachi Moore situation at the end of the game, we've discussed that a lot this morning. Coach has got to handle that, and everybody's watching. You got a 5th-year senior there, and so I understand his personality is different than Nick Saban's, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But when a guy refuses to come off the field, first of all, that's just wrong in so many different ways. That's got to be addressed today. I think you got to make the outside people feel okay about it. I don't think you owe us any major explanation, but the kid probably owes the Alabama fan base an apology. Just your thoughts about how critical it is and how this situation's handled.
I think it goes deeper than that, Barry. I think that Coach Moore's got to let the team understand who's in charge.
Yes.
Well, if you've got a kid out there that says, "Hey, I'm not coming off. I'm going to play," and that's defiance of what's being called on the sideline. This game's too sophisticated for that now. I don't care how good you are, you still are responsible for that position. And if you broke it down a couple of times, they need to get you out for a while. You better go. I don't think there's any room for question on that. But you're right. I think really how he handles it, not only with the fan base, but how he handles it with the team is going to be just as important. Because if that spills over, then who knows what the next defiance is? Nobody knows. That end up could continue to cost them another ball game or lose the dressing room because you don't take a firm step in that, and that's tricky. That's tricky with the kid itself and with his followers on the team as well, since he's a 5th-year senior.
Yeah, I want to ask you this, Dad, too. I mean, it's. Coach Saban was on the Pat McAfee show about a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And he talked about the SEC, and he said the only place that wasn't tough to play was Vanderbilt. And they were playing that on the big screen after the game continuously. And the coaches wanted to never want to give anybody bulletin board material. I'm not saying that cost him the game, but do you think Coach probably feels bad how he said that? And now Vandy, I bet he does. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm sure he does, but I mean, you kind of understand. Vanderbilt did something they had never done in the history.
Yeah.
Be the top 5 team, and that's one thing. When's the last time they beat back like in the early '80s or something since they beat Alabama? I mean, I understand why Coach Saban felt that way, but you're right. Who knows? I would bet Coach Saban had not looked at a tape of Vanderbilt this year with the new people coming in with the option. He did make a comment, I think, maybe after the game about the option itself, how difficult it is to try to prepare for it within 1 week.
Yeah.
And he is right on that. I guarantee you, I've done that in a situation I had to do that before. But I don't think when you get in a public situation where, everybody in the country is going to listen to what he has to say, you better be careful.
Yeah.
It comes home to bite you is what it did.
Yeah, that.
Well, you just have to define the way you say things,
right.
And I think it's important that you define. I don't think you ever come out and decide win, lose, or draw with one team is so and so better than worse to play or worse to do this, worse. I don't think you do that, and I think you made a mistake there. So, well,
we go all the way back, Coach, to Coach Saban's first year. He lost to Louisiana Monroe at home. But I'm not real sure that didn't help shape, his ideas about his team from their own. I mean, when something happens, maybe that's what will happen to Alabama. They can say, hey, we can't take anybody for granted. We got to work hard every week. And I think that they may have been basking in the, victory over Georgia a little bit too long.
Well, my opinion, the whole thing of the future of this team is discipline. I think if the discipline will ruin you for lack of practice. You won't practice as hard. I was one of these guys that mashed my guys a lot, and I wasn't going to take any. I try to get them to play. But I think discipline is the real cotton picking key. Because
I don't think
as Barry's mentioned, the public stuff needs to come out, and then behind the scenes, the discipline and practice and what you do and jump their fannies and trying to get them to play harder is going to be the key of the season.
Well, I don't think I keep making reference going back, but the last year I was at Florida State, we was number one in the country. We got beat by Miami, and we made some changes. And after that, I'm talking about every game was like the biggest game of the year for us. And we won 11 in a row after that. And so I'm just saying, you got to have a change. If you got a breakdown, those changes can come in attitude and more discipline, enforcing the discipline situations that you have, and then be sure that you break that tape down and see that if it was just one or two players that wouldn't fit in right well, you have to, in my opinion, you got to do a complete evaluation of where you are, where your team is.
Well,
like I said, we got back home. We worked all night that night and all day the next day getting ready for the rest of the year.
Well, you can talk. I don't know a lot about it, but you talk about reading defenses. The quarterback and the offensive coordinator read Alabama's defense better than talking about Alabama's defense reading Vanderbilt. It was the opposite.
The fact
Vanderbilt read Alabama.
Yes, exactly. They did, but another reason Alabama made little adjustment. They didn't make any adjustment to that, and that's why it was so easy for them. It looked like they would never give the ball up. I think there's some questions that's going to have to come from Coach DuBois. You may have to get more involved in the defensive side of the ball if you don't see some kind of change. I don't know a lot about Womack, the guy that came from South Alabama. Somebody said that I know a lot about Ole Miss, and somebody said just because his dad was on the staff over there, I don't know how much influence that has on him. But the fact is, that's where the breakdown came from. It's hard to score, if you don't have the ball very often. And with that option play, that's what it's geared for, to eat the clock up.
Max, I wasn't surprised Arkansas beat Tennessee. I wasn't surprised A&M beat Missouri, and I was surprised at how bad they beat them. But league, they may just chew each other up a little bit. Maybe Texas's schedule, A&M's schedule now kind of sets up pretty nice. If they could really win every game until they get to the end against Texas. So this conference right now is wide open for who can make it to Atlanta.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I felt the same way about Missouri. I went back and looked at the end of that ball game up to those 4 wins they had. Guys, they didn't play anybody that first 4. Missouri's going to be maybe 6 or 7 wins this year. I think their ratings and rankings was based on last year's team. And I know they were undefeated going into that team, but they were in 4-0. But if you go back and look at who they played, you'll see why they got beat. But the fact is that A&M, I think, has a different attitude, and I do think they're going to be a contender at the end. They got one, and I believe that in that game in College Station, that last game with Texas?
I'm looking right here. Yeah, it is in College Station. Yes.
See, I think that's going to be depending on how Texas does. It appears right now that Texas, number one in the country, they've got the easier route. I think.
Well, look, Texas A&M's they're 3-0. They got at Mississippi State. They're off.
That's it.
They got LSU at home. They're at South Carolina, at Auburn. And then they got Texas at home. So, they may be favored in every one of those games, but maybe LSU in Texas.
Very true. I think that's true. And I think, the change to Elko going down there, I think has made a difference, in the attitude. Jimbo had lost the team, I think, before we left because they just, it's just controversy constantly. And I do think it settled off. But guys, you go back and look at the history of Texas A&M. I mean, all the way back to Cole Stallings and Jackie Sherrill, and they've had great programs. The last time they won a national championship was 1939, and that includes the years Texas was down. They just couldn't quite get enough, so that indicates that there's some kind of turmoil constantly inside. I don't know whether it's, boosters, alumni, or what. But I think they probably got a better shot this year than they've had in a long time, mainly, as you just read there, the schedule the rest of the year.
I was South Carolina, Ole Miss. Why do you fake a punt in the first quarter and give a great offense a short field? I know if it works. Everybody says, I know Beamer and them are from the special teams and all the trick plays and all those things, but I felt like that was a bad decision. And then you got Ole Miss off to a good start. They go right down and score. What do you think about this South Carolina team? That's Alabama's opponent next. Both teams coming off an embarrassing loss, to be quite not embarrassing, but how bad South Carolina got beat. Just your thoughts about the game this weekend.
Well, part of the reason they got beat, they did preparation. I'm going to give rather than how bad South Carolina looked, South Carolina took what Ole Miss had been doing, and that's throwing the ball 40 times, and they worked on a 3 or 4 man rush and trying to drop 6 or 7 in the pattern just to play pass defense against probably 40 passes. And Kiffin didn't do that. He turned and ran the ball a lot more. He'd take what they give him, and that's something unusual for him because he recruited for a passing game, and that's what he's got. And I've said it for a long time. Programs like South Carolina and the old Mississippi State's another one this year. They don't have enough depth to play the high-powered offenses. That you can't. You get enough to you get 15 or 20 kids that can play, but to play it in the SEC level now, guys, if you're going to win, you got to have 35 or 40 players. Your 2s and 3s have got to be almost as good as your 1s for the third and fourth quarter. If you don't, you're going to get beat. And I think that's another reason. But I think the preparation for Ole Miss by Beamer and his staff was the wrong preparation. They didn't take, or maybe it was just a great job that Kiffin and them staff did in saying, "Hey, they gonna give us a run, so we're gonna take it."
Yeah, Deb.
I don't have anything particular. I think Georgia. I don't know who's the best team in the league. I'm not sure there is a best team.
Well,
I think Texas' schedule makes them the better team because they haven't lost. Right. They got a better schedule, but I'm not sure that. I'm not sure there is a best team, and I'm not sure that 5 teams will go from the SEC to the Final 12.
No, I'm thinking now hopefully 4, but I don't see 5 right now. I mean, I do think Texas, and they've developed, the Manning kid to come along as a number 2, and it's not much of a drop off now that him at quarterback, and I look for him to play a little bit more than a number 2 does along the way. I know we don't know what the extent of the injury was. If there'll be any carryover, we'll find out, I think, in another week or 2, if it is. But I think Texas has got a more balanced roster, let's say, in guys that can play, plus the schedule is going to probably keep them at the top right till the end.
Can Alabama, I guess, maybe afford one more loss? But when the committee starts looking at these 2 lost teams, and Vanderbilt's one of your losses, that's going to be hard to overcome it.
No doubt. Absolutely it is. I mean, they're going to have to really run some scores on some others between now and then. They sure can't have, I don't think they can have another loss. tell you the truth, since this one was at Vanderbilt. I think I think they got a shot, but I think that they're gonna have to work harder on the times that they on the practice field. I just still think something, there's miscommunication on the defensive side. And I don't know whether that's in the preparation or where it's actually in a snap-by-snap call from the sideline. I didn't watch them that close, but I was just assuming, like most everybody was, that Alabama was going to win, and of course they didn't. And that'll be a great learning experience for this new staff and for the team itself.
It happens in every marriage, Max. The honeymoon is over.
I don't think there's any doubt. I saw it. I saw that coming right after halftime.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey,
the honeymoon is over."
I saw it coming before he kicked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you can sense it, and then if you step back and think about it, that's the way it's always been. But the team performed, and I don't think Vanderbilt had previously had as much talent as they've got now in the new system that they put in. But you know what, guys? This was what 4th, 5th ball game of the year. Why hadn't Alabama picked that up on the tapes that they watch? You get the last 3 games, and they just didn't put that offense in. Last week just for Alabama, they've been running that offense all year long.
Yeah, but it's just like Dad can tell you. It's like in basketball, you're trying to get ready for Princeton, and you're trying to run your scout team's they can't do it. And so when you get into the game,
that is true.
You did work on it, but it was going at a totally different speed, and they run a lot better than you do. So
that is very true. So very true. No excuses, but that's a fact. I agree with that.
No doubt. Max, we appreciate it, my man. Looks crazy week this week. We'll keep wait. And Dad, here's blue plate. So I do want to brag on him. I've been picking on him, and he did take Clemson. They went right down to the wire. He was wanting to take Tulane against UAB and talk himself out of it. I told him that would have been a lot easier win than that Clemson game. But
I agree.
But he got it done. Thank you, Max.
Thank you,
Max. All right, guys.
I
want to thank Coach Heupel for saving Sam Pittman's job.
Yeah.
I think that is good.
And you know what? I think they got to do the SEC. We got to stop fining these guys. I mean, Vanderbilt had to rush the field after that game. You got $100,000 fine for that. Come on.
I know. But it's in we all know it's in the guise of safety.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what they use.
They don't know how to tear down the goalpost either. They're terrible.
But guys are standing right there where it's about to come down. Like I was telling Jim, they need to get out of the way. When this thing comes down and hits one of them in the head, it's going to kill them. So, thank you, Max.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you. Here. Bye-bye.
Where do you go get a new goalpost? How long does it take to get one in?
I don't know. Isn't it a lady athletic director?
I don't know. What's that got to do with it?
Well, she might not know where the goalposts are.
I don't know. The goalposts are in the river down there. They got it out. They're going to cut it up and sell it. Try to make back some money, pay back that $100,000 fine. Arkansas, do you really rush the field when you beat Tennessee? Tennessee?
Well, Tennessee it doesn't score but 14 points, which is darn good.
Yeah, they played great, but we rushed the field beating Tennessee.
Well, when you're down like that and you're questionable, and Tennessee has gotten to the point that people really want to play on real well. The Tennessee's gotten, in my opinion, has got in there with Texas and Georgia as a team to beat. Where all we do is talk about, well, Georgia's got to enter. Got to play Tennessee. I think Tennessee. I don't think you'll laugh at me on this one. I don't think the quarterback at Tennessee is great. I think what they run is good, but as far as him being a great quarterback, I watched him a lot. I'm sure he'll be hard for Alabama to beat. But you like him?
Yeah, I didn't like him that much on the road at Arkansas.
I didn't like him
what's so funny too is we got to go, but when Alabama loses, now everybody's bragged about how DeBoer's such a people person. He's easy to be around. Now he ain't got no discipline. This guy ain't got no discipline. So he let the players do whatever they want to do. They're practicing in the morning, playing music. But it was great all the way up until that Vanderbilt game ended. And all those things that he's been doing, they're out the window. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Look out for an accident causing severe delays on 2059 eastbound at exit 89 Mercedes Drive, blocking at least 2 lanes, and you'll hit delays after Highway 11. We'll keep an eye on everything and have another traffic update for you in minutes. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Lindsay.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
Checking games and note from Sunday's action from Week 5 in the NFL. The Ravens beat the Bengals 41-38 in overtime. Baltimore gets the road win thanks to quarterback Lamar Jackson's 4 touchdown passes. Cincinnati quarterback Joe Burrow in the loss had 5 touchdown passes. The Sunday night game ended up finishing Monday morning because of a weather delay in Pittsburgh, but in the end, the Cowboys pull out a 20-17 win over Pittsburgh on a last-second touchdown on a 4th and goal. In London, the Vikings beat the Jets 23-17. Minnesota's 5-0. Commanders are 4-1 after a 34-13 win over the Browns. Texans are 4-1. They beat the Bills 23-20 on a 59-yard field goal in the final play of the game. Cardinals surprised the 49ers with a 24-23 road win. Postseason baseball.
The Humana Honor Medicare Advantage Plan gives you $1,680 back each year in your Social Security check. Choose coverage that helps you keep more money in your pocket. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. The Part B Give Back benefit pays part or all of your Part B premium, and the amount may change based on the amount you pay for Part B. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Free shipping to your home on purchases over $25. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is located at 4610 U.S. Highway 280 in Birmingham.
Inside the locker room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Andrew Kniffer, he's my Allstate insurance agent. Let him become yours out at 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 over in Northport. Give them a call, 205-722-9201. They'll ask you a few questions there and get you a quote right to you, whether it's home, life, auto, whatever you need, right there. Andrew Kniffer, Allstate Insurance, 205-722-9201. 01. All right, get to the Andrew Kniffer hotline and get Tom in. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Barry. Morning, Coach. How are y'all?
All right, how are you?
Okay. I'm good. I thought you've had a good show with comments this morning on everybody's part. Yours, Coach, Max, Tony, and others have called and had good comments. But, Max said something that I picked up on during the game that I thought was very interesting. And I'm like, Philip, my hat's off to Vandy. I mean, they can say all they want to about Vandy this, Vandy that, but I'm scared of Vandy every year. I've seen them be so darn competitive against us in the past. Now, they may not have won the game, but they were there. You know what I mean? And also, I think Max is on to something about how we prepared for that game, because if you go back and you think about it, every time they tried to get outside, they lost yardage. We tackled for a loss 99% of the time when they tried to go wide. So that coach, the offensive coordinator and that coach, I thought did a masterful job, and they started bringing that quarterback and the running backs into the announcers pointed out into the A gap. Against the defense, and they were effective with that, which made the pass when you start looking for where you're getting beat at, it makes the pass more effective. And I thought they did a great job of their scheme by doing that. Now, the defense was prepared for them to take that ball, pull it, and go outside and try to beat them on the perimeter, but the defense was ready for that. I thought Lawson and Campbell did a great job of going from sideline to sideline and stopping that. but it was the inside stuff that got us beat, and that goes back to our defensive line. And if you watch that game, that quarterback had the knack for making our defense hesitate. They would hesitate because they didn't know where to go, in or out, or where the ball was coming. And then they would make an ass out of you when you did that.
I agree. Do you think both of you guys, we hadn't stopped them all game. You score, there were 2 minutes and something to go. Shouldn't your onside kick right there? I mean, you give them a chance to run the complete clock out. Now, they still, if you don't get the kick, obviously they could still do that. But you feel like we should have onside kicked there and try to get the ball back because we hadn't stopped them pretty much for a while.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I know that's hindsight, but.
Yeah. At that point, it looked like to me that Vandy, the number one thing about Vandy's game plan was they were going to take their offense to play defense against Jalen Milroe. And they stole that from Coach Smart in the second half of the Georgia game. We talked about it last week. He said, we're going for it on fourth down because if he gets back on the field, they're going to beat us.
Yeah.
And so Vandy said, you know what? Coach Smart was pretty good at that. We need to do the same thing. And by God, they did it. And the reason is, and I'm going to go back. Y'all are going to poo-poo me off the radio, and I'll go. Our defensive line is not being coached properly. And this goes back, not just the Vandy game. It goes back. I mean, it's been 3 years since we had a defensive line.
Well, I've just heard a lot of people criticize the previous coaches and that this coaching staff was the best there. And now those people are kind of quiet. I'm not saying these guys aren't good, but I don't know why we take shots at the guys that were here before. And then, you know,
I'm talking about them that's there now.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, this defense, when people want to compare this, well, you know, Coach Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year, but that's not the. He didn't inherit a team like this. You know, so
it's not, you can't compare. That's so stupid.
but you heard that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, but you know, it's not unusual to hear stupid crap from Alabama fans. Let me tell you. And, it's also, my thing is, though, you know, till we get the defensive line to where they can maintain gap integrity, that's the number one thing. I don't care how good Lawson and Campbell are, they're not going to be able to fight off a 300-pound lineman and make a tackle, too. They just cannot do it. They give up too much weight. And they will not win that battle. And, I will say this, Coach, and you know this is the truth. You got to have 30 on your ACT to get into Vandy. You got a pulse and you can play football, you get in at Alabama.
Yeah, I'll do that. You know,
I don't know how to say this without people understand. And I know they got kids from all over the country. All right. But coaching Southern kids is a little bit different than coaching kids out in Washington. I'm just going to say that. It's different. The kids are different. And the approach that you have with them, they've been coached differently over here. We have a different style over here. It's different. It just is. And so, but I'm not saying, I mean, he's got to be who he is. And hopefully they'll get all corrected. But I think how this Malachi Moore situation is handled is critical. It's critical for the future.
I don't know about that, you know, because I think I'm wrong, but I've listened to you and Coach. Y'all are coaches. Y'all been down these roads. I ain't been down no road. I'm a John Q fan. I don't know crap. But I'll say this. I've listened to y'all, and I heard Coach lean this way a little bit. But, I mean, what happened Saturday, I'm not sure about what the consequences would be under Coach Sanderson. I got an idea, and I think it'll be pretty severe. And but I will say this: I'm the kind of guy that I don't want to punish the team because of one person. But I agree with y'all. You gotta have control. That's just all there is to it. But I'm not sure how you get there.
Well, I think one of your best players needs to play, not talk. Your best, because they all look at this guy because he's one. You're not going to. You got to make him realize that he needs to play and keep his mouth shut. I personally think for one time, with the first loss and all this kind of stuff, for a team that whatever he says publicly would help.
I think he needs to say something publicly, and I also think he needs to get up in front of his team if he hadn't done it already. Maybe he did it yesterday and apologize and say that's not how we do it. And then you can forgive them if they believe what they're saying.
I agree.
And so if he does that, but if they don't, just let it go.
If he comes off with this narcissistic stuff, you're going to have to make a stand.
Yeah, and blaming other players. Hey, bro, look in the mirror. And then not come off the field when they're taking you off the field, that can never happen. Never. Period.
Well, Tony pointed out correctly in my way I watched the game. He got burnt. Malachi got burnt really bad for a fifth-year senior and a position of safety. But a lot of times they got one safety back there in the back. And you just don't let anybody get deep on you. You just don't do it. And guess what? They made a touchdown on him.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to Doug. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank y'all. I love the show.
All right, we'll get to break here. We'll get Tom in, and we'll discuss. We'll see how Tom did on his picks. Not Tom. I'm not saying Tom. Doug. We'll see how Doug did on his picks as well. You're listening to Tide 100.9 is the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. An earlier accident is causing brief delays eastbound on 2059 between Covered Bridge Road and Mercedes Drive. And in the North Tuscaloosa.
Visit us now to save big and discover why so many are switching to BMW. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Crimson Tide Today is presented on Tide 100.9, WTBC 1230 by BMW of Tuscaloosa. Online at bmwoftuscaloosa.com.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports and it's brought to you by CB&S Bank. Bank anywhere, at any time with CB&S Bank's digital solutions. Managing your finances has never been so easy. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. After Alabama fell to Vanderbilt on Saturday, here are some thoughts from head coach Kalen DeBoer.
Disappointed, frustrated. I mean, you name what it is. That's what everyone is in the locker room right now. And, you prepare and it's positive energy all week long. I really do think our guys prepared hard. There's some things that, we're going to look back on tomorrow and, be really frustrated about. You don't like talking what ifs, and that's going to be the situation we're going to be dealing with tomorrow. But, the guys in the locker room just talk about, there is only one option. It's to move forward, to get back to work. I feel we got a great football team. We weren't at our best today, and we're going to find out, really, how much we care about each other and what it looks like moving forward.
I'll have more in a moment.
CB&S Bank has a long history of stability and a legacy of serving our community's needs for generations. You could say we know a thing or two about tradition. We've been family, community, and financially strong since we began in 1906. Being a team player is part of our culture. That's why at CB&S Bank, we're proud to sponsor the University of Alabama Athletics and prouder to take the field or court with you. Visit cbsbank.com today. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Join us tonight for Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, live at 6 p.m. Central at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. Crimson Tide Today is brought to you by CB&S Bank. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partially sunny with a high at 85. Turning cooler tonight, clear with the low at 55. And tomorrow and Wednesday, a good supply of sunshine both days, highs around 80. Thursday, a sunny day with a high at 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 70 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
Back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, we'll get right up to the Yellowwood Hotline. He's with CBS Tour Radio. Joins us every Tuesday. Not Tuesday, every Monday. We love talking with our main man, Doug Bell. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Barry. Hey, Coach.
Let me say something about the golf before we start in on football, okay?
Absolutely.
I think when you play in a tournament where everybody is going to play well, a tournament where everybody is going to be under par, it's not the great players don't like to go to those kinds of tournaments because, and it's named, I don't know who it's named after, but Barry and I, but when everybody plays well, it's hard to win. And for what's his name to win it was a great honor for him. And we had a couple of guys that stayed in there and made money, and we had some of them that did make the cut as far as Alabama's concerned. We comment on that before we go to football.
Well, Coach, you're right, and it's kind of like the Korn Ferry Tour. They're set up for just massive amount of birdies, and that's why a lot of guys hate the Korn Ferry Tour. Yeah. They prefer to get on the PGA Tour. And the Country Club of Jackson is a beautiful golf course, but it is set up for a lot of birdies and low scores, and that's what we saw. And I will say the last few holes sets up for an exciting finish. And again, it's one of these tournaments in the fall with all the football going on. Nobody really watched it, but it was exciting. Kevin Yu winning. Yep, and Bo Hostler, who's still looking for his first win in the PGA Tour. You know, he was a All-American everything at the University of Texas and has struggled on the PGA Tour, which happens. But Kevin Yu went to Arizona State, and he was in between Phil Mickelson and Jon Rahm, who were considered the two greatest players ever to come out of Arizona State. And he actually won more than Mickelson and Rahm because he stayed there 4 years. He was there during the COVID year, and so he decided to come back for another year like athletes do in basketball and football. And so he earned his way on the PGA Tour through PGA Tour University. You know, he won a bunch of college tournaments and got his opportunity. And he's played well, but that was his first win. And, Coach, you watched it. It was exciting for him. I feel bad for Keith Mitchell, another guy, University of Georgia guy who three-putted the last hole, or he would have been in a playoff. But it was exciting. And our Alabama guys, Bud Cauley tied for fifth, which was a great top 10 finish for him as he looks to keep building this fall and earn playing privileges next year. Nick Dunlap, another good tournament, top 30. He tied for 28th. And Trey Mullinax, by the way, who missed all of last year with that hip surgery, a pretty serious hip surgery, by the way. That was his first tournament back, and he made the cut and tied for 42nd. So I was really excited.
We only had a couple that didn't. Only had Davis didn't make it, and Robbie Shelton didn't make it. But
right,
I know our fans don't want to hear all this stuff about golf, so I guess we better let Barry switch over to football. I happen to look up when my blue played.
Well, and Barry and Coach, let me say this. When I'm at those tournaments, and they have a big screen there at the practice putting green at the Country Club of Jackson, and they're showing all the football games. It is so funny. On a Saturday, there's the Alabama Vanderbilt game up on the big, and as these players are walking off, they're asking, what's the score? Who did this? Who did that? And a lot of these players keep up with the football scores on their phones throughout the round. And so even though they're concentrating on golf, they're also keeping up with football. It's pretty funny. And most of them, many of those guys are affiliated with Southeastern Conference schools and Big 12 schools and things like that. So they're really college football fans.
Yeah, it was funny. Lane Kiffin was doing his press conference, and they had the Alabama game up there, and he was so distracted by watching the game. It was right at the end. He kept saying, how many timeouts does Alabama have left? And so, he's like, this is something you never see. You may never see this again. So he literally could not even focus on his press conference. His eyes were glued to that TV. All right, before we talk about all those games, let's go to your picks from last week, Doug. Week 6. All right, so Indiana versus Northwestern. You said take Indiana minus the 13.5. I'm not good at math, but the score was Indiana 41, Northwestern 24. So that's a W. That's a victory. Yes. Nice. Yes. Texas A&M versus Missouri. You said take A&M minus the 1. Man, they destroyed them. They wasn't even close. Another W for Doug. Yes. So Doug was feeling good. He got a chance to go 3-0. And then he said Tennessee versus Arkansas. And he said take Tennessee minus that 14. Next thing I looked up,
stay away from it.
They were rushing the field, Doug, and it was not Tennessee rushing the field, so that would be a loss. But Doug, you're getting back, you're getting close. That runs that record now, to 8? No, let's see, that's 2 more wins, 8-10, right?
8-10, yeah.
8-10.
Close it in.
You're getting better. You're getting better.
2 weeks in a row, 2-1. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, guys, I'm turning the corner, and what we're finding, guys, listen. And the Vanderbilt-Alabama game was a perfect example. Parity is setting in college football. And Kirby Smart said it best, what has happened with the transfer portal is depth is being pulled away from the top programs, and that we see it every Saturday.
Yeah, but Dan's always said that Vanderbilt wouldn't be able to take advantage of the portal. Well, they did.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they got that receiver. Used to be a quarterback from Texas A&M, and then that quarterback for, that quarterback, he probably won't have to pay for anything in Nashville for the next several years.
Coach Kill changed his grades and got him right in.
That guy's eating free in Nashville, right?
Pavia?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That was, again, guys, and I know you've gone over it this morning, but when an offense controls it for more than 43 minutes, and they ran the ball 54 times for 186 yards, 13 of 18 on third down conversions. It was, I don't think I've never seen anything quite like that. An offense completely dominate the pace of the game and the entire game. It was just, I don't know. I was astonished as I watched that from start to finish, and as you were, and as was the audience. It was really one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And simply put, guys, Vanderbilt simply was the more physical team and just beat up Alabama's defense. I mean, they were just a tougher team. And that was obvious. That first touchdown that Vanderbilt scored, if you watched it, and I know you did, I mean, that running back just broke. He must have broke half a dozen tackles and just ran it right into the end zone. And that just set the tone for the entire game. I can't remember the last time Alabama was the other team was more physical than Alabama, but that was obvious on Saturday.
The clip that Coach Saban, when he was on Pat McAfee's show, said that the only place that wasn't difficult to play was Vanderbilt. They were playing that after the game on the Jumbotron in there. You think Coach says, darn it, I pride myself on not giving the opponent any bulletin board material, and I handed it to them on a silver platter. So they were playing that, Doug, on Saturday.
Well, yeah. I would imagine they would, but it was the majority of the fans in the stadium were still Alabama fans.
Yeah, true.
They didn't have a lot to cheer about because Vanderbilt, again, that was just, and you got to credit, the quarterback was fantastic, but that offensive line for Vanderbilt, my goodness, those big guys up front, they were exceptional, those 5 guys, and the tight ends too for Vanderbilt, they all blocked, and I don't know, pretty darn impressive when you think about it.
Vanderbilt did a very poor job of tearing down the goalpost.
They're not used to it, Coach.
So they're going to cut that goalpost up and sell it to try to offset that $100,000 fine. How much do you sell that pieces of that goalpost for?
They'll have a doctor just pay it all.
Doug, how much you sell that for? How much that worth?
Oh, gosh. I would think at least, $500,000?
Oh, my gosh. So they're going to make $400,000 for rushing the field.
Yeah. I mean, some rich Vanderbilt guy, alum is going to buy that thing and put it somewhere, down on Broadway probably, or maybe on campus.
Do you notice, because of NIL, that people are really people used to always criticize players now, but they are way overboard now criticizing these kids because they're making money. They think they have the right to now to destroy these kids because they're making NIL money. Is that fair, Doug?
No, it's not fair. I mean, listen, they're taking advantage of the system, these young men.
Yeah.
But when you get right down to it, again, they're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. There's a few that are a little older, but these are young men who are learning the game. And again, Vanderbilt was the tougher team. When was the last time we said that about an Alabama defense, especially? Where they just they couldn't tackle guys. I mean, it was just, but again, young kids, they're learning, and Alabama still has everything on the platter that they want to accomplish. Now, obviously, the window of opportunity is closed a little bit, but they just need to take care of business. Yeah, everything they want to accomplish, getting in the playoffs and advancing, is still there. They obviously need to improve on defense. There's no question about that.
Do you think they can still get to Atlanta? I don't know if they can get to Atlanta now.
You got that committee saying this thing now.
Well, you don't have to get to Atlanta to get to the playoffs.
No, that's true. But does that Vanderbilt count as 1.5 losses?
I don't think
I'm
so.
Serious. So if Georgia loses to Texas, they got losses to Alabama and Texas they're going in over Alabama if Alabama loses another game, right? And but Alabama only fell to 7 in the poll. Now, what does that mean I don't know. How many games? How many games will this team win the rest? Will they lose 2? What will happen the rest of the season, Doug?
Well, I think you have to. Again, the polls are important, which is crazy to say, right? But I think you need to stay in that top 12, and in reality, you need to stay in that top 10 because one of these Sun Belt teams or a Mountain West, one of these teams, whether it's Boise State or UNLV or James Madison or somebody like that, is going to sneak into the playoffs, or not sneak in, they're going to get in. So in reality, you have to stay in that top 10, and that's where the rankings do count. Can they afford another loss? Sure. I think we're going to have a 2-loss school from the Southeastern Conference in the playoffs. But, just look at the schedule. It's going to be challenging. I don't think there's any doubt, especially and listen, Tennessee lost. I get that. They play Florida this week. That's going to be a tough game. LSU. There's Oklahoma. There's some hurdles as the season goes on, but Alabama can afford one more perhaps, but it would be good if they just ran the table now. And listen, you don't have to go to the SEC championship. In fact, it's almost a benefit not to go because that would be a bye, and you'd have a home game in the opening round of the playoffs. But long way to go.
If you win that game in Atlanta, then you don't have to play in the first round.
But you still play the same amount of games. That's the thing, right? If you avoid the conference championship game, that's in essence your bye. And then you come right back in the first round of the playoffs with a home game against, which seems to be a team that just got into the playoffs, right? And you're going to play the same number of games. It's just your off week is different. So, and as we've discussed, it's almost like the NCAA basketball tournament. Is it important to win the Southeastern Conference Championship in football, or is it more important to get into the playoffs in advance? And I think that's what we're saying. In the end, it's nice to win the SEC, but now the whole dynamic has changed. It's just a matter of getting in the playoffs and how far are you going to advance, and that's how people will rank the kind of season that you had.
Would you say the honeymoon's over here in Tuscaloosa?
Well, yeah, I think the honeymoon is over. It was, and listen, what a honeymoon it was.
Yeah, it was a long honeymoon. You got an extra stay. Yeah.
And that Georgia game was, the ultimate honeymoon kickoff, right? Mm-hmm. My goodness. But boy, you're right, Barry. The honeymoon ended fast and furious in Nashville on Saturday night. There's no doubt about it.
That marriage went south fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
I hate it for Coach, to be quite honest with you. But hopefully he needs to have a good press conference today.
He sure does.
Doug, I'm being serious about that. That Malachi Moore thing was bad, and he needs to let everybody know who's in charge. I don't even know if I'd have those coordinators talk today. I'd tell them to go on and get to work. I'm going to have a press conference today. You guys don't need to walk out there and make sure that everybody understands who's in charge of this football program.
Well, yeah, and listen, and everybody, Coach Saban never allowed the coordinators to speak during the regular season. You know, they were preseason, and then they were always at the press conference prior to the SEC championship or whatever playoff game or national championship game. And I kind of like that. I don't think the coordinators need to be exposed to those questions, but they will be. They will be today. And so we'll just, again, it's important to bounce back, guys. You know, I mean, that's just, they got to come back with an impressive performance this Saturday. Offensively, not a problem. Defensively, you just have to get tougher. It's as simple as that, guys. You have to tackle better. And you know, I know I've heard people say, gosh, you need to change the scheme and they're not playing the same alignment coach said. Whatever. I mean, I think it's too early for anything like that. I just think these guys have to tackle better. They have to be tougher than they were. Vanderbilt just, I mean, it was like Evander Holyfield when he went against Mike Tyson. He was just tougher and better than Mike Tyson. And I think that's what happened Saturday. Vanderbilt, we've never said that in history. Vanderbilt was just tougher and better offensively against the Alabama defense.
You think Alabama was ready to play?
No, I think human nature being what it is after the incredible victory against Georgia and all that, the celebration that ensued after that. I think from a mental aspect, I think they went in a little soft on Saturday. And
these guys that are returning, they've hammered Vanderbilt, so they got that. Vanderbilt ain't no good. They're no good.
But there's a different, completely different Vanderbilt team. The whole offensive line is different, guys. And Clark Lee, you know, listen, you got to give that guy credit. Number one, I really enjoyed listening to his post-game press conferences. Chaos was ensuing on the field. I mean, he was the calm amidst the storm, right? And to me, that was pretty darn impressive. But after last season, Clark Lee sat down and listen, he got rid of friends and colleagues that had been with him. He changed his whole coaching staff, and they went out for the first time, and they got money for NIL. They brought kids in, and this is a completely different Vanderbilt team. I mean, this is not the Vandy of old.
Yeah, but the Alabama guys are looking at it and saying, yeah, they lost to Georgia State.
Georgia State beats them, and Alabama, Georgia State beats them. Come on, Doug.
They're not. You're trying, but they ain't listening.
No, crap. Georgia State beats them. Georgia State had they don't have scholarships hardly.
Yeah, so their coach left like right before the season started. Went to South Carolina. So anyway.
All right. Well, again, no, I hear you guys. But on Saturday. Yeah. Saturday, they punched Alabama.
Yeah, they did, but trying to convince Alabama's players that they were good, it didn't work. And then they gained confidence as the game went on, and then you couldn't stop them. So anyway, all right, Doug, where are you going this week?
Well, and I wanted to mention this, guys. I don't know if you've talked about it. The Missouri-Texas A&M game, right? Did you see that? The over-under, guys, was 48.5. Eli Drinkowitz, the Missouri head coach, 8 seconds to go, calls timeout and kicks the field goal
to
cover the over-under. 0% chance Coach Drinkowitz didn't know the number there. That was one of the most amazing things I've seen, guys. That was one of the most amazing things. Instead of going for it, he calls timeout and kicks the field goal to make it 41-10 final?
There are people saying that needs to be investigated.
Oh, I think I didn't know that. That's hot news.
Yeah, that happened.
I mean, that happened, and I almost fell out of my chair. But anyway, hey, every week I tell you, Eastern Michigan, Army, Marshall, BYU, Pitt, all 5-0 against the spread so far this season. That's the best. The SEC's best, Ole Miss, Arkansas 5-1 against the spread. The worst in the country, NC State, North Carolina 0-5-1, and Kansas came in this season with high expectations. They are 0-6
and they're
against the spread.
1-5. 1-5.
Yeah, 1-5. 0-3 in the Big 12, by the way. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I do that every week.
Okay.
All right. You guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready, guys. And this 3-0 takes me over the 500 mark for next year or next week.
All right.
I'm excited. All right, here we go. First off, Ohio State at Oregon. That's the big one, guys. We've been waiting for it. Ohio State undefeated, has looked solid, and obviously they have a couple of key components there from Alabama. Oregon is getting 4.5 at home, guys. They haven't looked great, but they're undefeated. I think Oregon beats them straight up. I like Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback for Oregon. I'll take Oregon and the 4.5 to beat Ohio State on Saturday in the big game, primetime.
Wow.
All right. It's showing 4 right now. Do you want me to give you the 4 or the 4.5?
Well, all right, I'll take 4.
I'll give you the half. We'll give you the half.
All right, Dre, thanks. And that's, again, Oregon at home, guys. That's
we know where the game is.
They got yellow uniforms, too.
It's on NBC. NBC. They got it.
Yeah, that's their big Saturday night. That's what they're calling it.
Okay, all right, go ahead. We got you. Oregon plus 4 over the Buckeyes.
And then another Big Ten matchup, which is interesting to say, Penn State at Southern California, USC. Penn State, a 5.5-point favorite in that one. That's what I got anyway, Barry. And Penn State undefeated, again, 5-0 again. The last few years they started 5-0 and then faltered a bit. USC, they're just not very good, especially on the defensive side. We're talking about Alabama's problems. USC hasn't fixed their defensive problems. Penn State goes out west and covers that spread, guys.
All right, it is still 5.5. So Penn State minus the 5.5 at Southern Cal. Southern Cal's 1-2 in the Big Ten, 3-2. Does Lincoln Riley survive out there?
Oh, no, of course, yeah. I mean, they're paying him a boatload of money, and
he hasn't been very good out there.
No, he hasn't. But they a lot invested in Lincoln Riley.
For what?
I think. And lastly, this puts me at 3-0 this week, guys. And Coach, you may want to. This could be a potential blue plate. Okay. Arizona at BYU. BYU, by the way, 5-0 against the spread so far this season. They're getting 3.5, or they're a 3.5-point favorite at home. BYU is a very good team and very easily could win the Big 12 this year. The Big 12 is crazy. If you look at, I mean, they got teams coming in from all over the place. It's the newfangled Big 12, but it's an exciting league. BYU, guys, I like BYU to cover at home. Arizona lost last week. They're not the same Arizona they were a year ago when they had that incredible finish to the season. The Cougars make me a 3-0 winner this week.
All right, BYU.
BYU gets
BYU. Well, no, Arizona gets 3.5.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I
Arizona gets 3.5. Yeah.
Still, I think that's a good pick, Doug.
Yeah.
I mean,
I may take that one, Doug.
That one's on Fox. If you want to watch that one.
That'll be a late
Arizona's
game on Fox.
Not late. It's 3:00. 3:00.
Oh, is it 3? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Arizona, BYU. BYU's tough to play out there. I like that, Doug. Of course,
There's a lot of big games.
You're kind of bold about that Ohio State, though. But I hope you're right. Man, I hope you're right on that one.
You don't keep up with it. You better be careful about my Cleveland Indians. We're gonna get a hold of the Yankees and knock them naked and hide their clothes.
Yankees.
I didn't think they were called the Indians anymore, Coach. But anyway,
when you spell Guardians, the Indians are that. It's just the first 3 letters.
First of all, you got to worry about the Tigers.
The first 3, it's just the first. I think I looked at it yesterday. Just the first 3 letters. Indians. Towards the end is all spelled correct like Indians.
All right, so today when you want to watch the game, it's on TBS. So
I know.
Right.
Well, that's the only thing about this crazy. Listen, I'm a baseball fan like Coach, but my goodness, you got to find these games. Yeah, they're all over the place.
Last night I was talking to him. So you watching the Dodgers? I ain't know they were on. It's on.
We're gonna knock the Tigers another game. We're gonna play the Yankees.
There ain't nothing better than watching the Phillies crowd. The Phillies crowd's unbelievable. They were.
Oh, my goodness, they get into it, don't they?
Yeah, what a game yesterday. All right, Doug, tell everybody MD Wellness Aesthetics. We got to get you out of here.
Yeah, let me throw the number out there, 205-582-9216, MD Wellness and Aesthetics, or go to the website, mdwellnessandaesthetics.com. And, guys, it's the time of year, and I say guys, it's for the guys and the gals, skin care, hair care, weight loss. They do it all, the laser treatments, the Botox, the facials, etc. The best thing to do, because they have some fall specials, go to mdwellnessanesthetics.com.
All right, Doug. We got you locked in.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you. All right, Dad, let's tell them about Bryant Bank, and then we'll get to break.
Well, 4 locations in Tuscaloosa, many in Birmingham, and now one in Gulf Shores. Columbiana has one, so the Bryant Bank is spread, been in Tuscaloosa since 2005. I hope that you'll go by there and visit with them and open up an account and tell them you heard on Inside the Locker Room. I think the account that you open up will be safely guarded. It will be any advice that you need about borrowing money or doing this or doing that with money, not only with the banker, but with the people that surround the banker, his helpers. And I think that you'll be welcomed in. I think it's just a great place to go. So go by Bryant Bank. Tell them you heard on Inside the Locker Room. Open up an account, whether it be business or personal or both. And I think that you'll find that you made a good choice.
I also want to thank Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com. You can look at the new inventory right there on the website. You can look at the pre-owned. You can schedule a service. You can rent a Toyota, order a part. Great deals out at Tuscaloosa Toyota. Swing by Skyland Boulevard and go to the website, TuscaloosaToyota.com. All right, phone lines are open, 205-342-9904. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Earlier delays are lightening up around the Tuscaloosa area. We've got reports of an accident on 26th Street affecting traffic both directions around Academy Drive.
The Humana Honor Medicare Advantage Plan gives you $1,680 back each year in your Social Security check. Choose coverage that helps you keep more money in your pocket. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. The Part B Give Back benefit pays part or all of your Part B premium, and the amount may change based on the amount you pay for Part B. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
In-stock items in select zip codes only. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. Exclusions and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
The best place for your high school football coverage is right here on Tide 100.9 and online on Tide100.9.com.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, we went a little long there with Doug, so we got one more break here. So I guess we'll go ahead and take that, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the games real fast for this weekend, turn our attention to the SEC games this weekend. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama Vanderbilt. We'll do the Good Moment sponsored by DanielMooreArt.com. We'll talk to Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Barrett Sallee. And we'll talk to Martin Houston, all starting at 2 o'clock on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Earlier delays are lightening up around the Tuscaloosa area. We've got reports of an accident on 26th Street affecting traffic both directions around Academy Drive.
Freedom and flexibility. That's what you want in a healthcare plan. And with Humana's Medicare Advantage PPO plans, you can see any doctor in the country who accepts Medicare, including specialists, with no referrals needed. Plus, you can go in and out of network for the same copay for doctor's visits. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a Medicare Advantage PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside Luck right real quick. South Carolina at Alabama. Alabama 21.5-point favorite. Missouri, UMass. Missouri 27.5-point favorite. Texas, Oklahoma, the Red River. Texas 14-point favorite over Oklahoma. Mississippi State, Georgia. Georgia is a 33-point favorite over the weekend. Florida at Tennessee, coming off that tough loss where the offense looked pretty average. Tennessee 15.5-point favorite. Ole Miss, LSU, a little bit surprised there. Ole Miss 2.5-point favorite on the road. That's a night game in Baton Rouge. And Vanderbilt in Kentucky. Kentucky is a 13.5-point favorite. I think people will take Vanderbilt a lot more serious now based on what happened with Alabama. All right, to the Yellowwood hotline. We got about 2 minutes. Bring Cowboy in. Good morning, Cowboy.
Hey, Cowboy.
Good morning, Barry and Coach. How you guys doing?
Right.
You're leading the league, aren't you, boy?
Leading the league? What are you talking about?
Well, you're all the best. Everybody's saying y'all going to be the best now. Everybody's getting beat, but y'all.
Who's y'all?
Oh, Texas.
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
That's Digger. That's Digger.
I'm not a Texas.
Oh, it's not Digger?
This is Cowboy.
Oh, excuse me, Cowboy. I thought this was Digger.
How does Cowboy and Digger sound alike?
That's all right. I've been insulted before. I'll take it again. That's okay.
I apologize, Cowboy. I thought they said it was Digger. My fault.
Coach, that's all right. I'm not worried about it. That's okay. In my 56 years of, my memory goes back to I was 4. In my 56 years of watching Alabama athletics, I've never seen an athlete at Alabama act like Malachi Moore acted Saturday.
Yeah.
I've seen some guys act, but I've never seen a guy refuse to come off the field. Now, the coaches can't go put their hands on them, but there should have been some players well there and physically lifted him up and taken him off the field. I think that situation needs to be addressed today, and he needs to apologize to his team. And Dad and I are a pro player, but I think he deserves a suspension for all the things that he did. It wasn't just one thing. I mean, kicking the ball, throwing the mouthpiece, shoving the quarterback's face in the ground, and then not coming off the field. You got to sit when you do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was not a good look. That's for sure. I noticed something on Bernard's catch there. The president of the university was standing on the sideline there with 5 minutes to go in the game. I noticed. Did y'all see him in the background? Of the
I didn't know. Oh, it's a lady. I thought it was a lady now.
No, you're talking about Alabama's president?
Yeah.
No, I didn't notice that.
Oh, let's see.
I noticed it when they were showing the replay and everything. Oh, well.
Anyway.
Well, it's load up for your South Carolina boys, Barry.
Yeah, they'll be able to handle. South Carolina's offense is not near as sophisticated as Vanderbilt's, so I think it's a good matchup for Alabama.
Hey, I know some old timers in the state of Alabama, probably Gary Harris remembers. That offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt goes all the way back to like 1988, 87. He coached a long time at Pittsburgh State in Kansas, where Franchione cut his teeth, and those guys were powers in Division II. And they beat Jacksonville State in like 1989 or 90, like 52-7 in a Division II national championship game. I remember old Bill Burgess told me one time in Touchdown Club meeting in Birmingham, he said, I don't want no more of those gorillas.
Yeah.
Man, they were the gorillas.
All right, we got to get out.
I didn't apologize to you, Cowboy. I didn't know it was you.
All right, we got to get out of here. All right, that's it. Call us back tomorrow, Cowboy. All right, that's it for today's show. Keep it locked in for the Gary Harris Show. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.